Gordon from Tesco to join us. Can we give George a round of applause? Thank you very much. So George is head of CR Communications at Tesco, and I don't think I need to introduce Tesco to anyone in this room. He was previously comms director at Unilever. Similarly, no introduction required there. We invited George on because Tesco have done something very interesting around their food waste data, and they won a communications award at the GSB Awards recently. It's been quite controversial, I think it's fair to say. They published, amongst other things, that 68% of Tesco's, or of the salad, which I think goes through Tesco's, never gets eaten. I think, am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, there's a product life cycle piece.
So anyway, welcome, George. Can you just tell us why you did that?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thanks very much, Jim, for having us along. Yeah, what we did, just to be clear, what we did was we, in October last year, we published, we were the first retailer to publish assured food waste data for our own operations, for our stores in the UK. And we also, recognising that food waste occurs all the way through from farm to fork and to kitchen bin, we also did some product work where we published the 25 most frequently purchased foods in our stores in the UK. We published if you like, the footprint of where food waste occurs. And you're right, the bagged salad example was I think it was both kind of shocking but also pretty much expected, because I think I'm a fairly typical shopper, and I do know that quite a lot of salad from the fridge does end up in the bin, unfortunately, rather than on the plate. So we did that. Why did we do it? We didn't do it out of a deliberate act of kind of wanting to be more transparent. We did it because when we went out to talk to our stakeholders in dialogue last year, on the big issues where we thought we could make the biggest difference, and I should have mentioned that this is all part of a piece of work that Tesco has been doing for the last sort of 15 months or so, where we're trying to use the scale of our operations and the size of our business to collaborate with others to create the greatest social good. When we talked to them about food waste, we began to realise that actually there was a contribution that we could make in sharing the amount of food waste that we could see, or the amount of food waste that we could pull together through talking to our suppliers and talking to experts like RAP, who sit on a lot of very good data. And by pulling that together and by putting that in the public domain and sharing it with our business, but also with other stakeholders, we could start to make a contribution to reducing food waste and have some really good collaboration with our suppliers, with campaigners, so people like Tristram Stewart, who are doing tremendous work in terms of raising awareness of the issue, and also with entrepreneurs as well, who probably have better ideas than we have as to where they can tackle it. So that's what sat behind the reason to do it in the first place.
You did get quite a lot of adverse publicity about it, and that's partly because whatever Tesco puts out at the moment does seem to get quite a lot of adverse publicity. Was it a difficult decision internally?
I don't think we did get adverse publicity. We got a lot of publicity. I have to be honest with you, we probably got more than I was expecting. But it was a mixed bag. We had some people who looked at the numbers and thought it was a very big number, which we expected. But then there was a bit of a debate that occurred afterwards. And we know through talking to RAP that certainly in the UK, our actions, along with a lot of others, managed to raise awareness of food waste in the second half of last year by a huge amount, by something like 20 percentage points. So we're really pleased that we played a role in that. Was it a tricky decision? Yeah, I mean, it required a bit of work. It required a lot of discussions at the top of the business. But the business is beginning to talk about scale and social good much more regularly, and we're having to make harder decisions. I mean, we had to make a decision a couple of months ago to take sweets off the checkouts of all our stores, including our 3,000 convenience stores in the UK. So it was a tough decision, but ultimately one which we've stood by. And I think certainly from a position of managing food waste in our own supply chain and with other partners, I think we're in a really good place for having done that.
And how has it changed decisions internally at Tesco? You've alluded to how it has benefited society. It's raised an understanding of waste up the agenda. We're working with RAP. And I think I've read that food awareness around waste rose from 35% to 50-something%, and I believe you're largely attributed for that jump. So I can see that there's been a societal benefit. How's it benefited Tesco?
Well, there's sort of, in a number of different ways, it's certainly given us more insight into where we should take action. So the issue with food waste is it's such a big issue, and it is something that a lot of people have very strong views on. But actually, for example, your example with the bagged salad or with any of those 25 products, it's very, very clear where the waste's occurring and therefore where you can put your efforts. And that's really helpful because actually that means that we can take action much quicker. Also internationally, it's very helpful because we announced the figures at the 3GF conference in Copenhagen last year at a time when the World Resource Institute were bringing people together to try and set standards for food waste. Because actually, although food waste is a big issue, one of the big issues is actually trying to define it and actually measure it properly. And so it's allowed us, because we have stores in 12 markets and because we source from over 70 countries, it's allowed us to not only deal with it in the UK, where it's a very hot issue, but also develop consistent plans so that we're actually tackling food waste wherever it occurs in any of our markets or any of our supplier markets. So from that point of view, it's been really, really helpful. And actually another thing is, it really, really motivates our colleagues. We've got 500,000 colleagues worldwide, and it's one of those issues, whether it's actually reducing food waste or making sure that surplus food goes to food charities and food distribution charities. Incredibly motivating thing, because nobody in our business, and I suspect in businesses here, wants to see good fresh food going to waste.
So there are people here in the audience who are thinking we have data which is relevant to society, which has an impact on society. Would your message be to them, look at ways of getting it out there, getting it into the open? I
think going back to what I said at the beginning, I think if you're clear from talking to, having dialogue with stakeholders and being involved in the debate that it has a contribution to make and you can do something with it, so it's not a vanity exercise, it's something that you can actually do something with, then certainly our experience on food waste has been a good one, and it's one that we want to build on going forward.